The sky looked calm, but the air carried secrets. Inside a jet slicing through the sunset, silence felt heavier than sound. Every man aboard wore the same uniform, the same mask of loyalty, but behind each glance hid a truth waiting to explode. This was not just a flight, it was a quiet countdown to consequence. The engines hummed like a whispering threat, steady and smooth, almost comforting. Outside the window, clouds rolled like waves of cotton, soft and endless. Inside, the tension was a storm of its own. 6 men sat in silence, their eyes fixed on nothing, their thoughts running wild. Each carried something more dangerous than a weapon. A secret dot at the front sat the commander, his face unreadable. He was the Queen's most trusted man, or at least, he believed he still was. His hands rested neatly on his lap, but his knuckles were pale, his pulse racing. He looked across the cabin at his team, loyal, disciplined, trained to follow orders without hesitation. But even he could feel it. Something was off tonight. The mission brief had been short, almost too simple. Retrieve the package, secure it. No questions. The Queen's words always came with weight, but this one felt heavier. The kind of order that hides more than it reveals. And for the men of the Queen, the more hidden a mission was, the higher the price of failure. The hum of the jet was joined by the faint click of a lighter. One of the men, the youngest, tried to hide his shaking hands as he lit a cigarette. The flame reflected in his eyes, nervous, guilty, uncertain. The commander gave him a sharp look, and the flame died. In that tiny spark, everyone saw what they were all trying to ignore: fear. Above them, the pilot's voice came through the intercom, calm and routine. "We'll reach our cruising altitude in 10 minutes. But even that normal sentence sounded like a warning. Because at 30,000 feet, there is no turning back, no escape. Only truth. The commander took a slow breath and looked at the briefcase locked under his seat. Its silver surface caught the dim cabin light, cold and clean. The Queen's seal was etched into it, a crown wrapped around a dagger. He had seen that mark on hundreds of missions before. It always meant one thing: obedience. But tonight, that mark looked like a threat. He leaned back, closing his eyes, trying to remember the Queen's last words. Her tone had been colder than usual, her smile thinner. Every mission tests loyalty, Commander. But not all men pass. He hadn't asked what she meant. You never asked the Queen to explain. You just obeyed. The silence grew thicker. Each man trapped inside his own head, listening to the low hum of the engines and the pounding of his own heart. The youngest one whispered under his breath, "Do you think she knows?" The commander didn't answer. Because, of course, she knew. The Queen always knew. A faint vibration ran through the floor. The jet hit a pocket of turbulence. Not much, just enough to shake the glasses on the table. But it was enough to remind everyone of where they were, thousands of feet above ground, with nowhere to run and no one to trust. One of the older agents chuckled softly, trying to cut the tension. "Just air pockets," he said. But no one laughed. They all knew that in their world, turbulence was never just turbulence. The commander looked out the window again. The horizon was painted in red and gold, a beautiful lie masking what was coming. He thought of the Queen again, her voice echoing in his head. Trust no one completely, not even yourself. And for the first time in years, he understood what she meant, because on this flight, loyalty was not a bond, it was bait. The night deepened, and the sky outside turned into a black ocean scattered with silver stars. Inside the jet, a dim amber light glowed above the passengers, turning their faces into half-lit portraits of tension. No one spoke, not until the commander finally opened the sealed folder resting on his lap. The sound of paper tearing through wax broke the silence like a scream in a church. Every pair of eyes lifted. The commander unfolded the thin document slowly, his gaze sharp, reading every word twice as if the letters might change before his eyes. The Queen's handwriting was elegant, curved with power. Only one sentence was written in ink: "Deliver the package. Protect the name. Should any man betray, erase." That was all. No details, no location, no time. just command. And within that command, a warning that felt heavier than the plane itself. He folded the paper again and slipped it into his jacket. No one asked questions. In the Queen's world, questions were suicide. But still, one of the men broke the rule of silence. "Commander, what's in the case?" His tone was cautious, respectful, but behind it was the sound of curiosity, the kind that gets men killed. The commander turned his head slightly. His expression didn't change, but his eyes burned through the man like a knife. "You don't need to know what you're carrying," he said flatly. "You just need to know who you're carrying it for." A chill ran through the cabin. The Queen's name didn't need repeating. It carried its own gravity. The woman who could make nations bow without raising her voice. The woman who built her power not on fear, but on consequence. The youngest soldier shifted in his seat, uneasy. He had heard stories about her, how she could turn loyalty into a weapon and love into leverage, how she rewarded silence more than courage. He had dreamed of serving her once. Now, sitting on this jet surrounded by men who looked more like ghosts than soldiers, he wondered what kind of queen they truly served. The plane hit another small wave of turbulence, shaking just enough to make one of the men reach for his drink. The amber liquid trembled in the glass like fear pretending to be whiskey. He took a sip, trying to steady himself, but the commander's gaze stopped him cold. "No one drinks on the Queen's mission," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The kind of weight that crushed rebellion. The man nodded, lowering his glass. The silence returned. Then, from the cockpit, the pilot's voice came again, calm, routine, mechanical. "Commander, message from control." "Secure line." The commander rose, straightening his uniform. He walked past the team and stepped into the small communication cabin. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt final. The screen in front of him flickered to life, and there she was, the Queen. Her image filled the display, sharp and haunting. Her face was half in shadow, her voice smooth as glass. "Commander," she said. "You've read the order." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Good," she replied. "Then you understand what failure means." He nodded. "I do." Her smile curved slightly, but her eyes didn't soften. "I chose you for this flight because I trust you, Commander." But trust, she paused, must always be tested. He felt his throat tighten. "If I may ask, Your Majesty, what's in the case?" The Queen leaned forward. "You may not ask." The screen went black. He stood there for a moment, the glow of the monitor fading from his face. When he stepped back into the main cabin, every eye turned to him, hungry for answers. He gave them none. He simply returned to his seat and locked the briefcase again. No one noticed the small red light blinking on the side of the case. A signal, a pulse, a countdown, maybe. But in their silence, it went ignored. One of the older men finally broke the heavy air. "Commander," he said quietly, "you've flown with her longer than any of us. Tell us the truth. Does she ever forgive?" The commander didn't look up. His fingers traced the edge of the case slowly, almost like a man stroking a weapon. "She doesn't forgive," he said. "She replaces." That single sentence ended the conversation. The men leaned back, each sinking into the noise of the engines and the weight of their own thoughts. Outside, the jet sliced through the night, cutting a path across the stars. Inside, the Queen's words still echoed, "Trust must always be tested." The commander stared out at the darkness, and for the first time in his life, he felt the meaning of that test closing in. Because somewhere above those clouds, beyond the reach of anyone else, he realized the truth. The Queen's greatest weapon was not her soldiers. It was her doubt, and tonight he was flying straight into it. The jet sliced through a wall of clouds, and the night swallowed the horizon whole. A faint rumble began deep in the belly of the aircraft, soft at first, like a warning whispered through metal. Then the lights flickered once, then again, until every man in the cabin looked up at the same time. The calm that had filled the air shattered like thin glass. The sky had finally caught up with their nerves. The youngest soldier's hand tightened around the armrest. The glass of water beside him rippled with every shake, small waves reflecting the red glow of the warning light above the door. The commander said nothing. He just watched, Eye steady, body still. He'd been through storms before, but not like this one. This wasn't the weather turning. This was something else. A voice cracked through the radio, the pilot's sharp, quick, and too calm to be calm. Commander, we're picking up interference. Communications cutting out. What kind? The commander asked, though he already knew the answer. Encrypted, the pilot said after a pause. It's coming from inside the aircraft. Inside. The word hung in the air like smoke. Every man turned to the other. No one spoke, but suspicion filled the silence. In this world, silence wasn't peace, it was a weapon. The commander rose slowly. His boots echoed against the cabin floor as he walked toward the back of the plane. He could feel every gaze follow him, every breath held, every secret trembling beneath the surface. He stopped by the case, unlocked it with a soft click, and stared inside. It wasn't money. It wasn't diamonds. It was a small black device, smooth, circular, humming faintly with red light. He had seen technology like this before, but never inside a Queen's mission. A voice came from behind him. "Sir, that's a signal transmitter." He turned. The man who spoke was the youngest again. His eyes darted nervously between the commander and the device. "It's not a tracker, sir. It's broadcasting." The commander's jaw tightened. "Broadcasting what?" The boy hesitated. "Our location. Our conversation. Everything." The commander shut the case, locking it again. His tone stayed level, but his heartbeat didn't. Who authorized this equipment? No one answered. The plane jolted violently to the left, throwing one of the soldiers against the wall. Alarms screamed through the cabin. Red lights spun. A tray of weapons clattered onto the floor. The pilot's voice cut through the noise. "We're losing navigation systems. It's jamming everything." The transmission ended in static. The commander grabbed the intercom. "Pilot, report status." Nothing. Only static. The jet plunged slightly before leveling again. Everyone's seatbelts clicked in unison. The youngest soldier's breathing grew sharp, rapid. "Sir, is this an attack?" The commander looked toward the cockpit door, then at the sealed briefcase. "No," he said finally. "It's a test." A sound broke the silence, a low mechanical click coming from under one of the seats. The men froze. Another click followed. Then another. Tiny metal snaps echoing one after another like falling dominoes. The commander dropped to one knee and ripped open the panel. A small device, no larger than a hand, blinked red. "Explosives. Disarm protocol." He barked. Two men jumped forward, pulling out compact tools from their belts. The rest scanned the room, finding 3 more devices lodged beneath their seats. Whoever placed them knew exactly where to hide them. The commander's voice was calm, but inside his mind was a hurricane. The Queen said every mission tests loyalty. He understood now. This wasn't sabotage. This was her test. She wanted to see who would stay loyal when loyalty meant nothing but death. One of the men shouted, "Timer's running." "How long?" 2 minutes. The commander moved fast, ice cold, gestures precise. He cut one wire, then another. Sparks flew. The smell of burning plastic filled the air. The plane shook again, but his hands didn't. He'd faced death before, but never death wrapped as an order. The youngest soldier trembled beside him. "Sir, we can't disarm them all in time." "Yes, we can," the commander said without looking up. "If we remember why we're here." The boy swallowed. "To serve the Queen." The commander looked at him, then really looked at him, and said quietly, "No. To prove we deserve to." Seconds ticked down. One device silenced. Then another. The final one blinked faster and faster. The youngest soldier reached for it, but the commander stopped him. "No, that's the trigger." The light blinked once more, then stopped. Silence. The men sat frozen, their breaths loud in the small cabin. The hum of the engines returned, softer now, like the plane itself was exhaling. The commander rose slowly, his expression carved from stone. Someone on this flight activated those charges. Someone loyal. To someone else. No one spoke, but behind every still face, a new fear grew. Not of the bombs, not of the Queen, but of each other. The commander turned off the warning light and walked back to his seat. Outside, lightning flashed across the clouds, painting the sky in white scars. Inside, he looked down at his gloved hands and whispered, "The Queen doesn't send orders. She sends judgment." He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the vibration of the engines steady again. They had survived the first test. But he knew the Queen never said only one. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was far worse. The air inside the jet was thick, heavy with something no one dared name fear. Every man sat still, their breathing shallow, as if the slightest sound might awaken whatever ghost still lingered in the cabin. The red lights had stopped flashing, but the color seemed burned into their eyes. The commander stood near the sealed case again. The silver box gleamed faintly under the low light, clean and cold, too clean, too cold. It didn't belong to any of them. It belonged to her. The Queen. He placed his hand on top of it, and for a moment, the hum of the engines was replaced by the hum of his own pulse. He opened the lock slowly, expecting to see the same black device he had sealed away earlier. But it wasn't there. It was gone. In its place was a small card, smooth, white, and marked with the Queen's seal. He turned it over. Only one line was written on it. "A leader is only proven when his men turn against him." He stared at it and blinking, as a cold realization spread through his chest like poison. This wasn't about a mission. This wasn't about the device, or even the Queen's orders. This was about him. He was the test dot behind him. A sound broke the stillness. The soft metallic click. The unmistakable sound of a safety being released. He didn't turn around. He didn't need to. The rhythm of the sound was familiar, intimate. He had trained them himself. He knew how they moved. "Whoever's holding that weapon," he said quietly, "you only get one chance." No response. Only the whisper of the plane cutting through the dark sky. He turned slowly, meeting the eyes of the youngest soldier. The boy's hands shook as he held the pistol aimed straight at the commander's chest. His face was pale, almost translucent in the light. His voice cracked when he spoke. "She contacted me," he said. "She said you failed her. The commander didn't move. She told you that." The boy nodded. "She said you went against orders, that you were trying to take what's hers." His finger trembled on the trigger. "She said I was to finish the mission." The commander's eyes softened, almost with pity. "And did she tell you what the mission really is?" The boy blinked, confusion flickering in his gaze. "To protect the name. To erase betrayal." The commander smiled, slow, tired, sharp. "Exactly." Before the boy could react, the commander lunged forward, knocking the weapon aside. A gunshot cracked through the cabin, deafening and sharp. One of the men shouted. The bullet hit the wall, tearing through the insulation. The plane jolted slightly, warning alarms flickering on the control panel. The two men struggled, the weapon slipping between them. The commander's strength was cold and measured, every move trained, every breath controlled. He twisted the boy's wrist until the gun fell, then slammed it under his boot. The boy gasped, clutching his hand. "Do you think the Queen sends orders to protect herself?" The commander said, voice low and steady. "She sends them to reveal you." The boy's eyes widened as understanding cracked through his panic. She set me up." The commander leaned closer. "No, she set us up." The cabin door slid open. Another soldier stood there, weapon raised. "Commander, step back." His tone was cold, professional. "To come." The commander straightened slowly, his hands slightly raised. The man's face didn't show anger, only duty. That was what made it worse. "She sent you too." The commander asked. The man nodded once. Direct command from control. "You're compromised." The commander exhaled, almost a laugh. "Compromised?" "No, test it." The man's finger tightened on the trigger, but before he could fire, the commander moved. The next few seconds blurred into instinct. A kick, a twist, a flash of metal, and a dull thud as the weapon fell to the floor. The soldier went down hard, unconscious. The boy stared, frozen in shock. "She kill us both," he whispered. The commander looked down at the Queen's card still clutched in his hand. No, he said quietly. She already has. He walked to the intercom, switching the channel to manual. Static hissed for a moment before a familiar voice filled the cabin, soft, smooth, and hurried. "You did well, Commander," said the Queen, "better than I expected." His jaw tightened. "You planned this." "Of course I did," she said. "Loyalty cannot be declared. It must be bled for." The commander looked around at the chaos, the broken gun, the trembling soldier, the unconscious man on the floor. "So this was your proof. This was your consequence," the Queen replied. "You wanted to serve me, but you forgot what that means. Service is not survival. It is sacrifice." The line went dead. He stood there, the cabin now quiet except for the rhythmic hum of the engines. The Queen's card slipped from his hand, floating down to the floor. The boy picked it up, staring at the words again. "A leader is only proven when his men turn against him." The commander looked out the window. The storm had cleared completely now. Below them, the world stretched out, calm, distant, unaware. He turned back to the boy. "We're not her men anymore," he said. "We're her message." The boy frowned. "Message?" The commander nodded, walking toward the sealed control room. "When they find this plane, they'll find exactly what she wanted them to, a story about loyalty, betrayal, and the price of obedience." The boy stood, realization dawning like dawn itself. "We're not landing, are we?" The commander paused at the door. Not as men. He pressed a button on the control panel. The autopilot disengaged. The engines roared louder, the jet tilting slightly downward. And for a moment, just one brief, suspended heartbeat, the commander smiled.